Ukraine's neighbor, Belarus, is playing a crucial role in this war. Russian President Vladimir Putin used the territory of Belarus, his closest military and political ally, as a staging ground for his February invasion. Russian forces have since launched missiles and drones into Ukraine from Belarus. Last month, the government in Kyiv boosted its forces in the north near Belarus to counter possible future attacks from across the border. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by Belarusian opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya. She was the main challenger to Belarus's current leader, Alexander Lukashenko, in a 2020 election and was then forced to leave her country under pressure. Today, she joins me from Strasbourg. Good to see you. Welcome to the program. Now, let me first ask you, thank you. Let me first ask you, Ms. Tsikhanouskaya, how do you feel about Russia using your country to launch attacks on Ukraine?
On the one hand, of course, we are feeling so sorry for Ukrainian nations that they have to fight not only for their own land, they are fighting for the whole democratic world at the moment. And the bravery they show, it's something unbelievable. They show the example to all the countries and all the people, how people are ready to fight for democratic values. On the other hand, I understand that my motherland, my Belarus, is used by Putin's army, to attack Ukraine from our side. But it's not Belarusian people who are supporting Putin or this war. It's only Lukashenko's regime. Thanks to Putin, Lukashenko managed to stay in power in 2020, and since then he has to fulfill all the orders of Putin. But I know that Belarusian people are opposing to the war. 90% of Belarusians are against participation of Belarusian troops in this war against Ukraine, and they are resisting. They are showing acts of disobedience or acts of sabotage to help Ukrainians as much as we can in the atmosphere of terror in our personal country. So Lukashenko is on the side of the war. Belarusians are on the side of Ukrainian people, and I ask the world to distinguish Belarusian regime and Belarusian people.
But Alexander Lukashenko is indeed, right now, for better, for worse, the leader of Belarus. Do you expect Belarus, under his leadership, to become even more involved in the war?
I know that in Belarusian army, there is no anti-Ukrainian moods. And Belarusian army doesn't want to participate in this war. Of course, we realize that Lukashenko is, just to show loyalty to Putin, he has to fulfill all the orders. But he also understands that given the order to our army to participate in this war, it will be political suicide for him, because there is no support of the Belarusian population of this war, and it will for sure destabilize even more already destabilized situation in our country. So I see that Lukashenko now is trying to balance, but not because he's thinking about Ukraine or, or terror in Ukraine or killings or weapons, but he thinks only about his own power.
You have made it clear that Belarus, under your leadership, would support Ukraine. But what are you doing right now, you and other Belarusians, to support Ukraine?
So at the moment, we can't do a lot in Belarus because, as I said, for 2 years, people are living in the atmosphere of fear and terror and repressions in our country. But despite of this, people are trying to do something, some small steps. In Belarus, people, they are like our spies in Belarus. They are providing information about movement of Russian troops, of launching missiles, of any movements of Russian equipment through our territory, and they're giving this information to Ukrainian army. Also, when the war has started, Belarusian people, yeah.
Sorry, I believe we were just having difficulty with the signal.
made 80 acts of sabotage on railway to slow down Russian equipment going to Ukraine. And I'm sure if there will be more situations when our partisans could show their efficiency, they will do this. Also, our cyber partisans are getting information from a railway station about movement of echelons with Russian equipment or army and send again this information to Ukraine.
Okay.
Also, we are trying to fight with Belarusian pro-regime propaganda, because propaganda in Belarus, they reiterate the message that Ukrainians are our enemies, that they want to attack us. That's why they have to justify the presence of Russian troops on our territory. And our task is to explain to Belarusian people what's going on, that it will be like fatal mistake if Belarusians will contribute to Ukrainians.
Now, you're in Strasbourg for the inaugural meeting of the Council of Europe's contact group on Belarus. We see the European flag behind you. Do you think that your country will be in the European Union as a member one day?
No, for sure, we want more Europe in Belarus and more Belarus in Europe. And of course, we now making these first steps as a contact group in Council of Europe to make Belarus a full member of Council of Europe in the future. Of course, we are not in the democracy at the moment. We are on the path to it, so we have to work in advance. And it's very good opportunity to start collaborating, to create events, to develop ideas, projects, or solutions at this very moment. And it will support the constant communication between Belarusians and the Council of Europe.
Thank you so much. Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya there, the Belarusian opposition leader in exile. Thanks for talking with us today.
Thank you.